Hey guys, you're watching Phone Arena's in-depth video review of the BlackBerry Curve 3G, which is available through T-Mobile right now, sporting a $79.99 non-contract pricing. And it's basically an updated model to the Curve 8520 released last year. As its name implies, it actually packs 3G speeds this time around. In terms of design, we're once again presented with the look and feel of the 8520. There isn't just anything substantially different with the design of the Curve 3G. It's constructed out of this faux pas metallic-like bezel all around the handset, which does provide for some character to it, but it's actually plastic, and it's combined with this rubberized back cover, which does offer you a pretty good, decent grip in the hand. Overall, though, it doesn't exude a high-end or premium BlackBerry, but it is solidly constructed, and we don't even feel it that much in the hand just because it's very lightweight, thanks partly to the choice of materials that it decided to employ. Powering on the Curve 3G for the very first time, you're going to be greeted to its 2.4-inch QVGA display. That's a resolution of 320 by 240 pixels and support for 65,000 colors. Honestly, though, it's not the most detailed display we've seen on any of RIM's handsets, but should be more than acceptable for this type of device. Text can be a little bit on the fuzzy side, but you can still definitely make them out. The other thing is that it just has a washed out look. Colors weren't as saturated as we would have liked. And when you use it outdoors, as long as you have it set to the maximum brightness setting, you shouldn't have any issues being able to see what's on screen. Right below it, you have your BlackBerry buttons here. You have the send and the BlackBerry menu key, the back, and also the optical trackpad, which is very responsive, and you could obviously change the sensitivity to it. And we also like the tactile feel of it when you push it down. Same thing applies to the other buttons here. Right below that, you have your portrait-style QWERTY keyboard, same exact layout found on the Curve 8520. They're slightly raised from the surface. They might be small, so people with larger fingers might have a little bit problem with it, but after a while, we didn't have too many issues with it, and did offer a pretty good tactile response when you press them down. On the left-hand side, you have the left convenience key, the micro USB port, the 3.5mm headset jack. On the right-hand side, you have the right convenience key, the volume rocker. They all have a rugged feel and pretty good size to them. On top, you have your media playback functions. Well, on the back, you have the 2-megapixel camera, and removing the back cover will give you access to the battery, the microSD card slot, and the SIM card slot. As it stands right now, the Curve 3G is running OS 5.0, which is the last generation platform. Unfortunately, it doesn't run OS 6, which is featured on the Torch 9800. Hopefully, though, RIM will push something out to bring it to the same level. But overall, though, the 624 MHz processor on the Curve 3G does a pretty good job as far as just moving about the platform, navigating, and just opening up applications. We didn't have too many issues as far as slowdown or any lag whatsoever. Easily one of the best things about the Curve 3G has to be the fact that it makes email setup such an easy process. All you gotta do is just run the application, and you generally just put in your username and password, and it doesn't really matter what kind of client you're using because it'll automatically put in the settings. And in very few instances, it's going to require you to put in additional settings such as server addresses. Overall, though, the Curve 3G just follows in the same line as other handsets before it, and it's a great messaging device too, thanks to the physical QWERTY keyboard that it packs on. The web browsing experience on the Curve 3G is pretty much similar to other OS 5.0 BlackBerries out there. Now, the biggest difference between this one and the previous version, the Curve 8520, is the fact that it has 3G connectivity. So it did load up our page here a lot faster and did a pretty good job accurately rendering it. If you zoom in a little bit more here, though, text is still on the fuzzy side, so you're going to have a little bit of a hard time making out or reading what's on screen. Now that's partly due to the QVGA display, but just scrolling is pretty smooth, should be more than usable for anyone out there. It'll be presented to the typical music player on the Curve 3G. It'll have stuff like the album cover, obviously, some track information, of course, the on-screen controls. We're happy to say that the audio quality from the speakers is pretty good. It had good, strong tones, very audible, and we didn't have any issues hearing it. Even setting it to its loudest volume setting, it presented us with a decent experience. Video playback on the Curve 3G is pretty good, just from what you could tell here from the video that we're playing right now. It's encoded in MPEG-4, 640 by 480 resolution. That's actually the maximum video resolution we're able to load on here. It is running fairly smooth, no evidence of any lag or stuttery movements, and the overall experience should be more than satisfactory for anyone out there. So if you're into taking photos, you might want to look elsewhere, just because the 2 megapixel camera on the Curve 3G failed to produce any decent shots worth keeping. Especially in outdoor conditions where there's plenty of lighting, we did find it to lack any detail, and on top of that, it didn't accurately reproduce colors the way it should. Even worse is if you use it indoors, you're going to need a steady hand, just because even there's decent lighting, it still produced some fuzzy looking images. Unfortunately, shooting videos isn't any better on the Curve 3G, just because of the fact that it has a maximum shooting resolution of 320 by 240 and a capture rate of 15 frames per second. So with the video, it lacks any detail. It even does look a little bit pixelated, and there are some jittery or stuttery movements just because of its slow capture rate. We have to say that we were really impressed with the calling quality on the Curve 3G, just because of the fact that voices were clear and distinct on both ends, with no evidence of any background noise or static in our conversations. On top of that, the earpiece itself presented a very good loud setting, so it made conversations very easy to hear. The same thing applies to the speakerphone, although it can sound a little bit deafening to the ear. Putting it to the middle setting will provide the most optimal experience. The other neat feature about the Curve 3G is the fact that it's a UMA-enabled device, meaning that if you don't have a good connection to the network, you connect to a Wi-Fi hotspot and still be able to place phone calls. So it's just a neat feature added on there for you. Battery life, though, is phenomenal with the handset. We managed to get easily 1 day's use on heavy usage, so anyone who's going to be using the handset a lot will have a great experience with it. And finally, connection to the network. We didn't have any issues as far as losing bars or drop phone calls, so it managed to retain a solid connection to the network at all times. So if you currently sport a Curve 8520 and you're considering moving up to the Curve 3G, there's a couple stuff you want to think about. First of all, if you don't have 3G connectivity to T-Mobile's network around your area, then it's a no-brainer to stick with the 8520, because that's the only advantage that this device has versus the 8520. And on top of that, when it's priced at $79.99, it does prove to be a decent entry-level device, especially if you're new to BlackBerry. But when you consider other options available on the lineup, such as the Bold 9700, especially when that device has been out on the market for a little while now, it's going to be priced competitively close to this handset by this point. So you might want to factor that into the equation when you're looking to choose which handset's the right one for you. So if you'd like to learn more about this handset, or for all the latest cell phone reviews, news, specs, and information, you could check us out at phonearena.com.